Good evening, America. Welcome back to another episode of Break the Machine podcast. First, I want to apologize. We didn't have a show on Wednesday because I just was not feeling well at all. Got some medical issues going on. I'm perfectly fine, but I needed to take a break on Wednesday. With that said, we're always aiming to bring new people on the show and to bring patriots from all over the country, which is, a good thing. We're trying to build a community here of truth tellers and truth seekers, and tonight we got someone from the great state of Michigan who's kind enough to come on the show tonight, and it's going to get into some Michigan politics with us, along with some current events that we'll be able to talk about tonight, like we always do. Um, we started a little late because we were actually having a really great conversation, so it should be a really good night with her. Tonight we have that patriotic Blondie, okay, 86. Not to be, we can't confuse it with the one and only Blondie who's been on this show as well. All right, so we got a new Blondie that's going to be hanging with us tonight, and I'm going to bring her in so that she can say hello and introduce herself.
Hi, Patriots. My name's Kate. I am from the great state of Michigan, the Great Lakes state. It is freezing here. Um, so, yeah, just living life, being frozen in the mitten. That's kind of what we're doing. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know what.
Michigan is a state that we haven't touched on yet here on we brought people on from other states to talk about politics from other states and whatever, and we haven't gotten into Michigan yet. So tonight we're going to start with that. Um, my biggest question is, how is Tudor Dixon not your governor right now after all the shit, okay, that Gretchen Whitmer did in your state, including
Oh my
killing
gosh.
freaking people's grandfathers and grandmothers, but
Oh,
somehow Tudor Dixon is not your governor.
no. So it was so disappointing when Dixon lost. Like, my fear is that going into it for her is that she was going to end up losing, because the thing here that was her campaign ad that kept popping up on TV and on the radio and all the things was about abortion. And like
Mm.
her stance on abortion was just like, no, like absolutely not. And I really truly think that that's what sealed her fate when running for governor here, because
Mhm.
that is such a big issue, not just here in Michigan but nationwide. That's such a controversial topic. And I think that that's what kind of, you know put
Sealed the deal that she
like,
couldn't
yeah, yeah,
put over the top.
which
Now,
is
does
wild.
Michigan? I'm sorry. Does Michigan have like speaking of Michigan, I don't know if you saw, my mod is from Ohio, so he's like, oh no, he says, oh no, Michigan as an
I
Ohioan
get
object.
I mean,
He says,
like,
just kidding.
isn't
That's
Ohio, like,
Jonathan.
all the
Yeah,
mid like, the
that's
Midwest, we all
Jonathan
agree that
Stevie's.
Ohio should go away? I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
He my mod is from Ohio, and he's a great historian too. So like he's probably gonna pop shit up while in the middle of our conversation, and I'll throw it up on the screen and everything. If we're talking about something, and I'll always hit him with, hey, can you get this for me? Because like I forget shit all the time. So you think
Well,
that it
he'll probably
does
like me
has
because I'm not a U of M fan. We're Michigan State people in this house. We are not Wolverines, so
Oh, okay. Well, at least I mean, in my family, my cousin actually went to Ohio State, so everybody's a Buckeye fan. I actually am not a diehard Buckeye fan, and I was actually rooting for Texas when they were playing. But I was
yeah.
like, well, if Ohio State wins, Ohio State wins. But I was rooting for Texas. With that said, so do you guys have like in your constitution? I know some of the blue states have been putting in their constitutions the right to abortion. Did that something like that happen in Michigan as well, or that hasn't even gotten there yet?
I don't know. You know what? To be honest with you, that is a good question. I don't know if it's like in our like state like constitution or anything like that. But like, I mean, it's a thing. It's been a thing here for a very long time. We actually like in the metro area where I kind of reside. Like, I guess where I reside is kind of like deemed Metro Detroit, and so like we had a couple, like up until like I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, there was like three Planned Parenthoods like just in like this general area, like in the suburbs. It was really
Oh
weird.
shit.
They're not there now, but it's really weird. But I don't know,
Like
like
within blocks from each other or something, or they were just like
no, I mean, like, they would be, let's say, like, 20 to 30 minutes apart, like, they
okay.
might be in, like, different cities, different counties, but still,
They,
like,
they
kind of
wanted to
close
make they
enough.
wanted to make sure they didn't overlap the fucking murdering
Yeah,
of babies. I get it. All
yeah,
right,
like,
I understand.
it was, like, super weird, like, it's just like, why do we need so many of these things? Like, what is going on? But now, like, they're all gone, but you would drive by them, like, some of them, they would be, like, totally undercover where it was just, like, you didn't really know what it was, but
Mhm.
yeah, but now, like I said, they're kind of gone. It's not something that you see here, like,
Right,
in the suburbs of the city anymore.
right.
I don't know.
We got some. We got. Hang on. The one and only
Oh, no.
Blondie's from Michigan too. So she says, "Oh no, all day." So and then
Oh, no, I'm sorry,
and John
I can't.
and Jonathan says that his family is either Buckeyes or Penn State. Wow, that must be one hell of a rivalry in the family, Jonathan.
Wow. That
Penn
is.
State and the Buckeyes. Woo, oof. That's something
That
else, man.
that
That's
that
one
is a
hell of a
little.
rivalry that goes on in the house.
I
So
will I will say this on for the other blondie that's in the chat. Like, I did kind of crack up because down in Ann Arbor, um, after Ohio won, like, there was a billboard down in Ann Arbor that said, "You can't be the champs if you can't beat the champs," because Ohio State did lose to U of M, which is crazy
yeah,
because U of M was horrible this year.
yeah,
But
they got their
like,
ass kicked by they got trounced.
yeah, but I mean, like, it was just like, wow, that's just U of M fashion, just a random billboard hanging out there in Ann Arbor that says that. That's crazy, but okay. So
So I mean, so you said you're outside of Detroit.
yeah, yeah. Like, I'm like an hour and a half north of Detroit, which is still kind of
Okay,
is deemed like the metro area. So like
right.
so it's like a tri-county area that kind of is what is deemed kind of metro Detroit.
So what's the politics in Detroit has been we hear about
Well,
Chicago. We hear about the corruption in Chicago, but Detroit has been terrible for a very long
so
time.
Detroit has been terrible, but in defense of the city of Detroit, like, Detroit is not, I mean, like, obviously, just like any major city, you're gonna have like craziness that happens, but Detroit has been like, and I know this is gonna sound weird if you're not from here, but Detroit has been kind of like on the upswing in terms of
Mhm.
like what goes on down there. So I mean, like, I think that's great, but in terms of politics, like, Detroit is in Wayne County, and Wayne County is always a blue county, always, like,
Mhm.
always. Um, and then you incorporate the other two counties that make up the Metro Detroit area, like, like sometimes, like where I'm at, sometimes our county's red, sometimes it's blue. Um, our neighboring county, like, they're always red. So,
Right.
but if you like when you drive through these areas of the suburbs, and like, especially around here, you hit a point in like the city where I live, you have like your more like upper class, like, white collar
Yeah.
people on like the west side of the city. And then on like the east side of the city is kind of more like middle class, blue collar people. During, leading up to the election, everybody had, the signs in their yard, like, supporting, either Trump or Kamala, if that's what
Yeah.
you were doing,
This
when
for you,
you,
Blondie, from the other Blondie. She
no,
says Wayne
Macomb, no,
Macomb and Oakland counties are always blue.
Macomb County is actually red, like a
So
lot.
so this election cycle it flipped red.
No, my county didn't. My county was blue, but I don't think it was weird to me that it was blue for a few reasons, but one of the reasons is Oakland County is pretty affluent, right? So like in my city where I'm located, you could come, like I said, the white collar people are on the east side or the west side, and the blue collar is on the east side. And
Right.
when you were coming through the city, like, you can tell like where you're at, because on the white collar side of the city was all like, Kamala signs,
Right.
like Harris Wall signs. And then you would come to like the blue collar side of the city and you have Trump flags, you like my house, the like banners, like we had a Trump banner across our fence, the Trump signs in the yard. It was just really weird to kind of see that and take note of like, wow, like that is so bizarre to see. I mean, there was definitely, like yeah, I mean, there was that fine line in that city that really just
Right.
divided, like, the Democratic voters and from the conservative voters, and,
Yeah,
but
these cities, unfortunately, it just no matter where you're at, you can be in the reddest state possible. The cities are most likely going to be blue. Although where I'm at, my mayor is actually a Republican. They elected a Republican, and my what do you call it? My representative is a Republican too. So it's just kind of whoa. But I live in a free state now, so that it's different. It's a little bit different. Um, but I know again, like the city of Detroit. I remember, I want to say, I think it was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, like the federal government had to come in there and literally take over the police department and get rid of everybody and all that other shit. Like it was bad for a very long time. And, a lot of that has to do with again, with any jobs going to other countries when it comes to the auto industry, right? What we know Detroit
yeah,
for is the auto industry, right? So when the Clinton administration just absolutely made it completely easy for what do you call it? Companies to leave the United States and go to China and everywhere else. All right, it just absolutely wrecked Detroit,
right.
financially, and it just the job market, went out the window. So I don't know how that is now, especially with the EV mandate. I would imagine that it's still pretty terrible up there.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up because, my husband, he works in the auto industry, and, I made a video about this on my Instagram, I think back in the summertime, but, first and foremost, we don't have the infrastructure for EVs for everybody to have EVs. Like the
Correct.
infrastructure doesn't exist. Number 1, but number 2, the auto industry. So we have like anywhere like the shopping plazas where you can see like your Target and like your DSW, and they have a whole bunch of other stores in them. Well, we have a few of those larger plazas like around here filled
Hmm.
with EV cars, and they've been sitting there like since
No shit.
before Christmas last year.
Wow.
Like, it like, it's so crazy, and, like, I said to my husband because we, like, went to the store, like, a few weeks ago, and we drove around the back of the plaza for whatever reason, I don't remember why, and, like, they're adding to it. It's not like these cars are just sitting there and not moving. They're adding more and more, and it's just I said to my husband, I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "This is wh" I'm like, "What a waste." Like, these cars are just sitting here. Number 1,
Yeah.
people don't want them. Number 2, even if they did want them, like, nobody can afford them. And number 3,
Yeah.
we don't have the infrastructure to maintain them. So it's just such a waste. And I do like, I do feel bad for people in the auto industry because, I mean, that is what Detroit thrives on, and unfortunately, like, with Biden and this EV nonsense has really, like, it's really affected it. I mean, my husband, like, even where one of the automakers he works for is, like, really struggling. So
Yeah. Well, this is from Blondie. I mean, because she's from there too. She said at least 10 Democratic black mayors have each separately embezzled millions of dollars from Detroit. Even school principals getting kickbacks from Department of Education funds. Can you can you
yeah, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. So Detroit Public Schools was I haven't kept up with it like recently in the last few years, but Detroit Public Schools was really, really sneaky. Like there was a lot going on down there in terms of kickbacks from vendors and stuff like that. Like one of the principals, I believe she was from an elementary school. I don't remember her name, but she was getting like cars and all types of stuff from these vendors, and it was just like how how can you do that like as an educator? Like you are there to, educate children and oversee and manage a building of teachers and students, and you are here driving Maseratis from that were given to you from vendors. Like that was wild to me when all that corruption came out of DPS. Now, so DPS since then has they replaced their superintendent, and the gentleman that went there, he was like pretty good. Like he was a good dude, like, and just trying to get everything. He was trying to, do what Trump's doing. He was trying to right the ship, right? And I think he ended up leaving. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I don't think he's there anymore, but I haven't heard a whole lot of negative coming out of like DPS, like there was at one time, but it is there is a lot of craziness that go. I mean, Detroit Public Schools is the largest school district here in Michigan, and there is definitely I mean, you could spend a whole podcast talking about DPS for sure. There's no doubt about it. But I do think they try to keep things under wrap. I mean, Michigan is one of those states that really isn't transparent with a lot of things, including like their politics, the laws that they pass, and even when it comes to things like DPS. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, education as a whole, right? Since the birth of the Department of Education under Jimmy Carter, we went from like being third in the world to like fucking damn near 45th. It's like
yeah.
28th actually, but it's
I was
just
gonna say,
terrible,
I
right?
was gonna say, don't
Like we
make us look
stay
that bad. I think it's 27, right? I think it's
it's
27.
terrible, and the it's an absolute racket what goes on, right? Like the teachers unions, especially the National Teachers Union with that Randy Weingarten freaking twat running the show. She's been there for a very long time, okay, and she's very very corrupt. She's made a lot of money. We'll take, you could take a city for instance like Detroit or a city like New York City, which is even bigger, okay. their education their education funding is billions of dollars a year, and there are
Yeah.
countries in the world that don't even have a fucking GDP. They don't even have a national budget as big as some of the education budgets in some of
Yeah.
our cities and whatnot. So, I understand the corruption. We used to have in, I don't know if you had it in Detroit. I'm giving my age away here. In New York, we actually had vocational schools. Okay, and we
Yeah.
had like literally you had to bust your ass if you wanted, when you're graduating from junior high school. Okay, if you wanted to get into, if you didn't want to go to your regular high school that like for your neighborhood, okay, but you wanted to go to a specialized school, like you really had to have good grades. We had automotive. We had a what do you call it? A school of, don't worry about it. We got a resident troll that constantly talks. It's all good. Yeah, don't pay attention. I'm not paying
That's funny.
attention
You
to it.
saw you saw me like look over like what?
Yeah, don't pay attention. It's just the chat will take care of them in a minute. Um, anyway, so we had like we had the high school of aviation. Okay, again, we had a high school of automotive. We had schools for the school. It was like a high school for the trades where you did plumbing, electrical, what do you call it, HVAC and everything. So we had those schools, and then all of a sudden, under, I want to say, wasn't Bloomberg, it was Diasio, the communist that came after Bloomberg. He shut all those schools down, and then we opened up schools like the school of freaking, the school for climate change or some dumb shit like that, and the school of diversity, and we got a lot of that crap, right? That was like, after Bloomberg, when Diasio took over, he just, the schools just went to shit. And again, they got rid of all the vocational schools. And I know we had that in New York City, so I'm always under the assumption that a lot of the major cities like Chicago and Detroit had to have had those stuff, because that was like a standard, okay, in
Yeah.
big cities across the country, so
Yeah.
and then
So
then it got reduced to like, you went to your high school and you had like an automotive class, right, or something like that, but it wasn't a school. We actually had schools that were dedicated to that. So I don't know if you guys had that in Detroit and that just got, what do you call it, taken away as well.
we do have those. We do have those. We actually have like quite a few. However, um some of them have dwindled away. And it's really
Hmm.
unfortunate because I mean, as somebody who grew up in, a family of men who worked in skilled trades and married to a guy that works in skilled trades, it's very sad to see like the decline in that. But we do have vocational schools where, kids can leave, like, they'll spend like 2 or 3 hours at, their school, and then they go to another building and they take like, those automotive classes,
Hmm.
stuff like that. And I mean, I think that's great. So from what I've heard, there is a lot more interest in kids shifting that in that direction and going back to those vocational programs, which I think is fantastic. I think there is like I want to be careful how I say this, but I guess I'm just gonna say it. It's really disappointing that we push kids to go to these artificial environments that is college. Like we just dealt with it. My husband and I just dealt with it with our son. I mean my stepson, but that's my kid all day long.
Yeah.
But like and it was just like we didn't I didn't realize like how much of an artificial environment college was until like my stepson, he started like saying certain things, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
You got
You know?
somebody who's saying hello to you.
Oh. Oh, hey, Kim. Oh my gosh, she's great. I love Kim. Kim and I collaborate on reels all day long on Instagram. She is one of my favorite people. Love you. Um,
Yeah. Go
but
ahead.
yeah, like it's really crazy. Like people, I think you tell kids you have to go to college and you to get a degree to make money and all of the things, but and that's great. Like if you want to go to school to be an engineer, okay, cool. That is awesome. But electricians are out here making like bank. You
Yeah.
know, plumbers, I know it's a dirty job, making bank. And these are things that we need. You know what I'm saying? These are everyday, you know, um contractors that we need to do things. And I really would I hope that the increase in students going to these vocational programs keeps increasing because like it's a necessary thing that we need. And it's again, I mean, I think that gives somebody a different perspective. Like my stepson, he went to college to be a teacher, and I was just like, "Oh my god," like I'm telling my husband like I'm so concerned about him. Like I don't want him to go into the classroom in today's world. Like I don't want him to because like eyes are going to be on him. I'm like he's going to look at somebody cross-eyed and like
Right.
he's going to lose his job. And so my stepson was just like, "You know what? Like I don't even want to do this anymore." Like he didn't even start teaching. He was just like, "You know what? Like I have no desire to do this." And he started working at a factory, and he's still doing it, and he makes great money, and he busts his ass every day. And I'm super proud of him. But it's just like I don't think I think that teachers should kind of be honest about what the trades really does and the income that you
Well,
can really gain, and like just even the common sense and all the things that comes along with it. I mean, like you're just talking about a different type of person who goes into
Well,
the
that
skilled
that
trades.
changed. That changed actually. I can tell from me when I saw the change. Okay, because I graduated in 1991. I graduated from high school, right? And the
No
program
way.
you were, yeah, the program you were talking about, in my state, in my area was called BOCES, where you went to when you got to like junior year. All right, if you qualified to go to BOCES, you'd be like half a school year, half the day at the high school, and then you would get bussed over to the BOCES campus and you would learn a trade, right? And like the high school kids, they're still in my old town. There's still a playground that was built by some of my friends in high school that's still there. That they, every couple of years they take the kids over there to fix it back up and stuff like that. So I know what you're talking about, but I saw that change in the education, with unfortunately with the millennial kids was like go to college. And then what has happened, right, is that the what do you call it, funding for schools in particular is essentially backed up by the government, right, with Fannie
Right.
Mae, and fucking what's the other one, Sally, whatever the fuck it is, Sally numbnuts, we'll call it, because it's just stupid. And they
It
know,
is.
since they know that their loans and everything that they're going to get these kids to take is actually subsidized by the government, they start making all these dumb ass freaking frivolous, degrees that have no bearing, and you can't apply them anywhere on the fucking planet. All right. And you got basket weaving, you got gender studies and all this other dumb shit that nobody
Yeah, like
can hire. You can't get hired with it.
what are you
Okay.
like ultimately like what are you gonna do with that? Like I know people that went to college, like I graduated in 2004, okay? I know people that went to college and like were nutritionists and could never find a job
Yeah.
and then ended up doing something else. Now I'm not saying
The,
like I mean
the big
obviously
the
it's
big thing my
way
time was
different.
physical therapy. Everybody wanted to be a physical therapist when
Oh
with
my gosh.
everybody in high school.
I swear that was a thing. That was a thing. That was definitely a
Yeah.
thing. I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I feel like this, you know, everybody's like I think the mentality, honestly, when it comes to like kids today, like they think that they could be on their phone and be like this like all day and be
Yeah.
the social media influencer. And it's like that's not how life is. That's not you like
Yeah,
no.
unless you're in that 1% of freaking people that has a viral video that goes like wild, and then you make a name for yourself. But like during my time, going to college you went to college because you were going to be something. Like if you went to
Right.
college, it was because you wanted to be a lawyer, you were going to be a doctor, like with an engineer or something like that, right? Something in STEM. like where you actually needed the
Yes.
education and you needed the degree, okay, and you needed
Yeah.
the hands-on experience, right? But everybody else I knew went into trades, right? I had tons of friends that went into trades, okay, and they became, electricians. One of my friends who graduated a year after me, he was working on elevators and stuff like that. Or some of my friends became firemen or cops, or like me, went into the military and whatnot out of high school. So it was different back then. But the generation, the millennials after us, it was school, school, school. But they kept creating in these schools, they kept creating these frivolous degrees, like I said, that don't get you anywhere, right? You can't apply them anywhere. So like it
Yeah.
wasn't like you were going to become a nurse or become a doctor or a physician assistant or whatever, okay? Or you're going to
Right.
become a lawyer or something like that, right? Or an engineer, like I was talking about before. You're getting fucking basket weaving and you're getting a degree in freaking, like I said, gender studies. The one of the biggest one of the biggest fucking jokes is the Hispanic and the fucking black studies. Is the
Yeah.
nobody, absolutely no one got fucking, okay, a job from shit like that. I'm pretty sure there are some people who got some DEI jobs out of that because somebody saw it, because DEI has been going around. It was called something different back then. It just became a bigger thing like around 2015. It was more prevalent and more out in the open. But
Right.
they were doing those type of hires where, oh, you got African American studies or you got Hispanic American studies, like, but it doesn't teach you shit. Okay, you
Right. I
still
mean,
don't
that's
know how to
not there's
fucking
not
use a tool.
right. There's not like real life experience in that. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? And it's just that's crazy to me. I can't imagine like looking my parents in the eyes in today's world, being a kid that's going to college and be like, "Oh, I'm going to go for gender study." Like what the hell does that even mean? Like what do you
Yeah.
gender study? Like I don't even take a fucking biology class. I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Or
digress.
or oh, you want to do gender studies? Go to the bathroom, fucking drop your pants, and take a look at what you got between your legs.
Like
There you go. There's your gender
exactly.
studies right there.
Like what do
You
you
just
what like
figured
what
it out if you just looked at it.
like what are you actually going to study? I mean, like I don't understand. Like I don't know. I'm sure the left would, beg to differ, but I mean, like, who listens to that anyway? But
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people listen to it, right? And
yeah,
they it got out of control for quite some time now. I want to say probably since about 2015 is when it just really ramped up. It was
yeah,
behind the scenes for a very long time, and then with Obama, when he made some rule changes and stuff like that, and he started, pressing schools, forcing them to let boys into girls' bathrooms and whatnot, or they weren't going to
yeah.
get money and all that other shit. Okay, and then we saw what fucking Biden did, with Title IX and everything. So. But the this last election was a referendum on that shit, right? People just
Oh,
got tired of it. They're
absolutely.
like, we're just
Wha
we're just done with this shit.
100%. I have always been a Trump supporter. I have voted for that man 3 times. I have no regrets voting for that man. And and I was I mean, like, I knew he was gonna win, right? Like, I knew he was gonna
Yeah.
win, but, like, I think everybody because what did we all do that night? We didn't, like, do what the TV said last time, like, "Oh, just go to bed," like, "Well, we'll have the
Yeah,
results
no, we
tomorrow."
didn't do
Like,
that shit
we
last
all
time.
stayed up and we're scrolling social media, like, "What is going
I had
on?"
a
Like, n
6 hour show, Blondie.
did
I had a
you?
6 hour show. We did a 6 hour show on
Oh, damn, I
election
wish I
night,
would've known.
and
I would've
yeah,
been part of
yeah,
it because I was
we
up
had
all
a
night.
6 hour show, and I had to actually cut it off because like that's all I was allowed with the streaming studio based on my plan, right? It was
Oh,
telling
wow.
me like at 6 hours you're done, so I had to cut it off. And as soon as I cut it off, like a half hour later, we were still watching. There was three of us left, watching behind the scenes and on our own TVs and stuff like that. And then they called it like a half hour later. But like you said, right? Last time we went to bed and he was up by fucking a million votes, and then you wake up and he's down by 500,000. You're like, what?
So I
What the fuck
remember
happened?
right, I remember going to bed in 2020 and it was late and I was like, but Michigan, we were red. We were solid fucking red, man. I went to bed and got up for work, which was only like a matter of a few hours. I think it was like 5 hours later. And I was like, Michigan's blue and like Biden won. And I'm like, the math isn't mathing here. Like something's not right. Like this doesn't make
Right.
sense. And then I think everybody was kind of blown away by it. Like not everyone, but I think a lot of people were blown away by that. And I was because it was just like, what does this like Joe
Well,
Biden
we
has
watched it in
nothing to
real
offer
time.
us. you
Yeah,
know?
because we watched it in real time and we saw it actually happen, right? We saw the whole Banana Republic shit go down and everything, and then you know, and obviously this last election proved exactly what we've been fucking trying to tell people, for the last 4 years was that it was absolutely taken and stolen and everything,
It
right? We
was.
should that this last election showed that, right? It just absolutely proved that,
But it's just
but
like, how like, we know that now, and a lot of us kind of knew that before, but, like,
yeah,
when it came out, it was, like, 13 million extra votes. Was that, like, the final number that kind of got agreed upon somewhere out there? Whoever but, like, we're not gonna
I'm
talk about
listening.
that? Like we're not gonna talk we're not gonna talk about that? We're just gonna be like, "Oh, okay, well, like, that happened, so"
Yeah.
like,
Well, what the
why?
problem is
Like, where is, like, the accountability for the guy, especially the Dominion guy. Like that
yeah,
dude, like, have you heard the like recorded phone calls with him? Like,
yeah,
and I'm just like, but we're still using his equipment to like vote
yeah. It,
across the
it just
country. Like,
it's
that's so wild to me.
yeah, yeah, unless it's changed, um, and the way it's going to change, it has to change in the states, right? Because we can talk about national shit all the time, but the reality is, if you don't do shit in your own freaking state, in your own town, your own village, and whatnot, nothing is going to change, right? So, one of the things we've always talked about, we talk a lot about local politics on the show all the time. There's always something that brings us back to local politics, and it's important because on the local level, I know, at least from the state I came from and seeing, what's going on here in my new state. All right, on where I lived, our judges and the DAs and stuff like that were elected locally, especially the judges, right? So you have to really pay attention to that. You know, yes, you're absolutely right. Rogue Nina, I didn't say hi to you. Hi, honey. Yeah, we got in trouble. We got banned. We got freaking silenced every time we talked
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, yeah, that's
I mean
right. Fuck them right
that
now. They're not in charge of shit right now. Have you seen how apoplectic they've been about absolutely everything? And it's great. It's great to see because he's just like moving at fucking like he just looked over. He looked over and is like, punch it, Chewy, and hit the fucking hyperdrive, and he's
I've
been
seen.
nonstop.
And people are like, "Why do you keep saying promises made, promises kept?" Like, what? Like, I'm sorry. Are you asking me that for real? This man
Yeah.
like walked in the door day one and started doing everything that he promised America he was going to do. You know what I'm saying? And you tell me what other, I mean, we can say politicians across the board, what other president has walked in there and made such moves?
Well,
And
he kind of got his ass handed to him, right, the last time, right? Like, so he didn't he and he admitted this, right? I don't know if
oh
you
yeah,
saw I don't know if you saw his interview. He admitted it first with Dr. Phil, and then he just did it recently with that twit from Fox, Brett Baer. He just recently did one. I saw
oh
clips of it. He
yeah,
admitted it. He said, listen, I had people in my ear, who I thought had my best interest, and
right.
obviously there were some mistakes made. But I remember him saying in Dr. Phil that he was essentially some naivety is what he admitted to, and then he
Yeah.
said, but what stuck with me was like, but he says, but I know who the players are now,
Right. And then
because I know who the players are.
people who are like, people hate Trump, and like, my father-in-law is very, very liberal, and
Yeah,
it's super frustrating. Like, it's super frustrating in the regard, like, if I post something like on Facebook, he wants to start to argue with me, or he'll just flat out like call me stupid on my own Facebook page, and it's like, okay, cool, thank you,
It's
I
not even worth
appreciate
the
you.
argument though.
But
Yeah,
I
it's not
don't,
even
I
worth the
don't,
argument anymore.
I
Yeah.
don't, out of respect, that's my father-in-law. Like,
No,
you can
it's not
feel
even
that
out of
way. Like,
respect because you have a right to defend yourself. So what I'm saying
well,
is,
right,
it's not
but
even worth it. I don't even
it,
pay
it
attention to
doesn't
people anymore.
it doesn't matter. Like, he is set in his ways. He is not going to change. I could show him
Yeah.
all the evidence in the world, and he's never going to change his
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah. You can
But
put it right in their face, video footage, right?
yeah,
But it's like they don't give a fuck. They're just gonna
but
continue. I listen. I have someone in my family. Listen. We all got family members like
oh
that. I
yeah,
got idiots in my family that just refuse to fucking see what's right in front of them. I don't care. It's just like, listen. You
right.
want to live like that? Live like that. That's fine. I tried to tell you
Well,
about it. You didn't want to listen. It's not my problem.
and I've tried to tell people, like, the thing that separates Trump from other politicians, and people want to criticize his first term, and I'm almost like, you can criticize his first term all he wants, but even not being a career politician and having all these, like, you know essentially traitors surrounding him in his cabinet that he like his first term was pretty successful in my opinion, but
Yeah, there was a
the
lot of success. There were
you know
obviously things that he got wrong, and he's gonna get things wrong. Listen, I'll say it. I say it all the time. I'm glad that he's there, and
oh yeah,
when he does something I don't like, I'll call him on his shit. Doesn't matter, because that's what we do here, right? Like that's what we're
right,
supposed to do.
we're not gonna agree with
Take for instance,
everything.
yeah, take for instance when he that dude that he picked, that Florida sheriff for the ATF, fucking social media went like ape shit over the pick. Okay, and within a day or two he was like, yeah, okay, all right guys, all right, okay, bad choice, we'll go with somebody else at some point. The guy was forced to step down because he was catching so much fucking heat because he's a red flagger. So like everybody was just like throwing the yellow flag at Trump and like foul, they were just like penalty, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's just wild though. Like, he was not a career politician, and he did have a successful first term, but now he knows where all the bodies are buried. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Cash Patel knows where all the bodies are buried. And
absolutely.
I think that like he learned what he learned. I mean, he got burned by his own VP pick. Like
Yeah.
it's going to take somebody like a Trump who is not a career politician who got burned and who sees it for what it is. It took a first term 4 years for him to see it for what it is and then to be indicted, impeached, the assassination attempt, and now
Yeah,
he's
they tried to kill him.
like I'm fucking coming for you. Like I'm coming
Yeah.
for you. Like that
Yeah,
that's
they
it.
tried.
Like
They literally tried. They tried to kill him. They tried to put him fucking behind bars for the rest of his life. All right, and they tried to bankrupt him. Right, so they did absolutely everything they could possibly do. They lied about him constantly.
yeah.
They consistently, talking shit about him and everything for 4 years, just buzzing. Actually, longer than that. Actually, it was eight
But
years that they were going at it.
right. Well, the thing that gets me the most, I think, about Trump and like his first term is like you have these Gen Zers. Now, this is me. I'm an elder millennial, and just like I feel like you mentioned the millennials earlier. I feel like the elder millennials are like a category. Like we resonate
Well,
more with Gen X.
You guys are
Yeah,
closer to
like
Gen X. That's why
yeah, like
you
we
guys are
we
closer to Gen
definitely
X.
resonate more with Gen X. But like you
Yeah.
see these like Gen Zers, and like and they're out here and they're like, how could you pick this man again? And blah, like you were like literally 4 years old his first term. Like, shut up. Like
Yeah.
you don't even know. Like you were a kid. You were outside
Yeah.
playing, doing all the things. You weren't paying attention to politics. You weren't paying
Right.
attention to politics until recently. But like this, I'm so scared. I'm scared for my life. I'm scared for my life because of Donald. Why? What
Yeah.
is it? Like nobody can ever give me a reason on why they're
Oh, they did the
terrified of
same
Donald
thing, but
Trump.
they did the same thing his first term. That there was a constantly that it was gonna we were gonna be in. I remember I worked with somebody who was like, he's probably gonna get us into a nuclear war. That didn't happen. You
Oh
know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, if anything, the man is like, he hates nuclear weapons. It's like, have you not paid attention to anything he said? But
right.
anyway, if you're just joining us, please say hello in the chat. If you know that Patriotic Blondie 86 and you're following with us on the Rumble and YouTube, please say hello to her. Let her know that you tuned in to check her out today. I don't know if you guys pay attention at the top of the chat. There is a pin, buy me a coffee there if you want to help out the channel, help it grow. By all means, go ahead and give. But so yeah, a lot of people were just constantly. Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Jonathan Stevie.
Yeah,
He says
yeah,
Biden
I
was the
just
one
saw
that
that.
almost got us into a nuke war. Like very, very close. You
Let,
know,
let's talk. Let's talk about. Can we talk about that for a second? Like,
sure.
I still want to like. Okay, so like, Zelensky is all of a sudden like, oh yeah, like you guys gave us billions of dollars, but I only got like this much, and I don't know where the rest of
Yeah.
it's at. Like,
Oh, I know where it went, but
and I think it was Tucker Carlson that came out and said it not like a couple days or maybe a week or so ago. I don't know, but he said like Zelensky has been selling our shit to other people, like
yep.
other countries, the cartels, and it's just like, oh my god, he's fucking right.
Yeah,
He's
it was
so
Tucker
right.
Carlson that said that. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was Tucker
and
Carlson that said that.
it's just like so now like the cartels are walking around with like our artillery. Like that's crazy. Like these other
Yeah,
countries
it
that like are have like our artillery, our like that's wild to me. I don't know. I mean, I just you wanna talk about Trump getting us into war. I mean, I really truly think, and I mean, like, I'm kinda curious what your opinion is. I think Putin kinda like, we all know that Russia coulda wiped the Ukraine off the map. There is no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
I
Well,
think Putin
yes,
held
yes and
out to
no, but go
see
ahead.
how I feel like Putin held out to see how this election was gonna go. Like, I do,
He's
like,
lost
from, like
he's lost quite a bit too. The thing about the Russians and historically with the Russians is they always have the bodies, right? Like so if you just go back to World War II, they were fucking sending people to fight the Nazis. For every one person that had a gun, two people were running behind them just with ammo. You know what I'm saying? So they always had the bodies. So yes, but what people don't seem to understand, okay, even as depleted as our military has become, all right, with all the bullshit that went on, especially over the last 4 years, because Trump was trying to get us back after what Obama did. Every time one of these fucking Marxists get into power, and okay, we elect a Marxist, which I don't know why we continue to do that. They absolutely destroy our military. That's the first thing they hit. Okay, is they decimate it, right? Um,
mm,
so there's still things that I know because I still got people that are in and everything. There's still shit that we haven't even used, okay, that would absolutely just fucking devastate things. The Russians haven't
oh,
fought anybody since Afghanistan,
that's true.
okay? They haven't fought anybody since Afghanistan, right? And you see what happened to them. Same shit that happened to us. We got bogged down in Afghanistan for fucking 20 years. We should have learned from the Russians, right? We should have just
Yeah,
turned it into a parking lot and left, okay, and just did what it is that we were supposed to do and just left, but we didn't,
yeah.
right? So that, I mean, that's a whole other talk show, right?
That is.
Obviously,
Have you ever heard of
obviously,
Project Ajax? Have you ever heard of that?
yeah, I've
We'll have
heard
to
that.
talk about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. um as far as the Ukrainians, okay, they obviously have no freaking, what do you call it, they have no fighting since World War II, right? And they were fighting on the side of the Nazis, okay, and so what you have to understand is the whole thing going back with the Ukraine goes back to the Bidens in 2014 and 2015. I actually did a video on this, all right, with the whole money laundering scheme. Okay, so the whole Burisma thing. His son is fucking funneling money back to
Oh,
him and
right.
his family and stuff like that through Burisma. Okay, on with a job that he was never even qualified for. They start doing an investigation into Ukraine. Biden goes in there, tells the president at that time, okay, who wasn't Zelensky, I forgot who it was. All right, you got to stop this investigation, or you're not going to get your money. And there was going to be billions of dollars that were going to be going to the Ukraine. So they did. They stopped the election. They stopped the investigation. They fucking ousted him out. Zelensky gets elected, okay, in the country. He knows where all the bodies are at from the previous administration, okay, in Ukraine, and he starts putting the fucking screws to the Biden administration once Biden gets elected, right? Then the Russians go and they fucking do something stupid, right? Because they were getting pissed off about the whole shit with NATO and everything, but they just really it was the way it's really been a waste of their time when you think about it, okay?
Yeah.
Because they've lost quite a bit of people as well. It's been a waste of their time.
That
They've
is
caught
true,
some L's.
for sure.
They've caught some L's too. Like, we people don't want to admit it, but the Russians have caught some L's as well. Anyway, again, Zelensky putting the screws to the Biden administration the whole freaking 4 years. All right. So money constantly going, money constantly. Where's that money going? They actually talked about it. I forgot what senator was talking about it, who was admitting essentially was like, oh no, this money's not going to the Ukraine. It's going to the military contractors to give them military weapons. I was like, so essentially the people that you have stock, the companies that you have stock in here in the United States, we're giving it to the money to the Ukraine, our money, okay, tax dollars money for them to buy equipment, all right, with, okay, and they're like, no, it's not going to them, it's going directly to the military contracts. All right, so your stock is getting better, and your dividends you're getting fucking paid out along with the kickbacks that you're getting from some of these companies as well. So it's just a
Yeah.
big money laundering scheme, right?
It is. And you know what? Like, I feel like I don't even know. Like, my thoughts on Zelensky are just, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
anybody's gonna
he suspended elections last year. They were supposed to have elections last in 2020, spring of 2024, because they go every 5 years in Ukraine.
what, am I crazy, or wasn't there a woman that running as president, or going to run as president for the Ukraine?
I'm not
Am I
sure.
or am I
Jonathan, who was trying to run in 2024 against Zelensky before he
Oh, he's not
before he
lying.
canceled the what do you call it? Huh? Yeah,
Oh,
I'm not sure.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah, can you find that out for us, Jonathan? The question is who is going to run against Zelensky in 2024 before he suspended elections in martial law?
I mean, I could be confusing it with something else, but I'm pretty sure that I like thought like a woman
I
was
know
running
there's
against.
A Ukrainian American congresswoman here in the United States who's very vocal about Ukraine and stuff like that.
Oh, I don't
I don't
know.
know if maybe you're thinking about her.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not really sure. That is so weird.
I
There's a
don't know.
reason why
I
I think
honestly don't
that. Now
know.
I don't
See,
remember
but
what it is.
again, like in my
This is
videos that I
my
posted about him, like I always said that he was our biggest welfare recipient, right? Taking our money and
yeah.
stuff like that. And I kept
Mhm.
calling him Putin light. He did the same shit that Putin did in Russia with getting rid of fucking anybody who was running against him, getting rid of any dissidents or anything like that, and poisoning people across the world. Zelensky did the same shit. He arrested people, threw people in jail, okay, went after the church and
Yeah.
stuff like that in the Russian church and whatnot and everything. So, stopped elections. So it's he does the same shit as fucking as the Russians, right? Like it's the same shit on a smaller
Yeah.
scale,
Oh
right?
yeah. I
So
mean, I like let's be honest. I mean, I'm not going to loop Trump into this because again, like I do, I don't think there is a whole lot of corruption when it comes to Trump in terms of money laundering because we would have known. We would have known about it years ago.
yeah,
Like
oh
they
yeah, they
talk
would
about
have blasted it all over.
they
Oh
talk
God.
about the
Yeah.
Epstein list all the time. Like, oh, Trump's on the Epstein list. No, because if he was, we would have known about it years ago. But
Yeah, we'd have known about
anyway,
it.
like I think there is some type of corruption to all of these, presidents, prime
Yep.
ministers, all of the things. You know what I'm saying? Like
Well,
there is.
if it,
There 100% is.
no, absolutely. And if you obviously, I know you're paying attention to the whole shit that's going on with USAID, right?
Oh god,
That's just
yeah.
one. That is just one. Okay, here's the all right, so this is Jonathan's got an answer. He says Oleski Aristovic and Petro Poroshenko were the only two that were announced that were they
Okay,
men? Because
so yeah,
she's thinking of a blonde woman. Were they both men, Jonathan? They both sound like men, Oleski and
I think
Petro.
they're both men for sure. I don't know where I got that. Now this is gonna bother me, and then when I figure
Well,
out who I'm
I
thinking
think
of,
you're
I'm gonna have
I
to tell
think
you.
I'm almost positive because you
All
said blonde
men.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said
No,
blonde woman. I'm
she was
almost positive.
no, she had black hair. She had black hair.
Oh, did she? Okay.
What am I
I thought you said
thinking of?
blonde.
I don't know.
My bad.
But no,
I thought you
no,
said
it's
blonde.
okay. No, it's
No,
okay. Like
but the whole thing is like what we're seeing with USAID, right? How they've
yeah.
just been giving our money to despots and terrorists and all kinds of organizations, right? It's these organizations that have been used, okay, for these people to get kickbacks and stuff like that. So
Right.
that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just what we
Well,
know
I
of
mean,
right
like,
now.
I really like, I told my husband the other night, we were talking about it, and I was like, I want to know what Moroccan pottery classes really are. Like, I want to know what that really is because that's
It's
not
not a
what it
Moroccan
is.
pottery class.
Like,
It's not what it is.
what is it? Okay, did you see the thing? Like, did you see the thing? Like, it was like the USAID stuff, and then it was like 2023. There was like and obviously you have to take things, with a grain of salt on the internet, right? But it was like Jeffrey Epstein, $253,000. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, wasn't Jeffrey
Yeah.
Epstein supposedly dead in 2023? Like, what
Yeah,
is that? Who'd
yeah.
that go to? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a thing.
I,
It's
just
things.
like, what?
These are things that we want to know, right?
But
And this
it's
is the
just like,
shit that Doge is.
it's comical because it's just like they label these things. They're like, oh, okay. So in their budget reporting, you're labeling things as like Sesame Street for Iran. Like, it's almost
Iraq.
kinda
I
comical,
think I think it was Sesame
what
Street. It was Sesame Street for Iraq, which was really probably going to ISIS.
oh, exactly, but it's just like,
Yeah,
it's almost like you're mocking Americans by calling it things like,
yeah,
a DEI comic
intentionally.
book or, like, transgender comic book in Peru or whatever it was, like,
Yeah,
or what in the actual fuck? Like, are you serious? Like,
yeah. It's not
come
going to that.
on.
None of that shit is being. It's not. It's not. It's
Oh,
all
yeah,
going into
no,
somebody's
definitely not.
pocket.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, like, it makes sense because how is Nancy Pelosi worth $240 million? Like, how is that like, I mean, like, I know her husband likes male prostitutes, but, like, how what? Like, why are
yeah.
you worth
And
two
it's
hundred
not
forty
just their
million dollars?
hotel. It's not just their hotel business that they had. Why listen. It is just a big, big cesspool in the swamp.
Oh,
And it doesn't make a difference whether you have an R or a D in front of you, because there are plenty of Republicans that are banking off of this shit
oh,
too. Okay.
yeah,
And I want it all
100%.
exposed. I don't care if they have an R, a D, or an I, or a P, or a Q, or a fucking whatever in front of their name. I just want it
Yeah.
all exposed, you know.
Well,
And
I
and
think
and,
that's a
and
I
we
think
know
that's
we're
a
not going to get it all.
misconception.
We know, right? Because it's just he's only got a 2 year window to get as much done as possible, because that's when it's supposed to expire. The
But,
Doge thing. So
right, but, like, here's my thing, like, you know, I think that, like you said, like, we wanna know it all. Like, I think the conservatives, we are just about truth and transparency at this point,
yeah,
and, like,
even if
we
it's
don't.
coming from outside, we don't give a shit. We
Right.
just
Like, we just
yeah.
wanna know, and it's just like, the left is like, "Oh, well, Republicans this, Republicans that." Like, yeah, you're probably not wrong when it comes to some of them, being
Yep.
involved in this, and, like, hello, we're aware. Like, we know. We just
Yeah.
wanna know who.
We want it
I mean,
exposed. Yeah, we know. We just
yeah,
want it
like,
exposed.
because, I'm sure, outside of your Mitch McConnells, like, there's
Oh,
other
don't even
Republic.
get me started on foreskin neck.
Okay, what is going like, how okay, is he's gonna end up like the woman, what was she, the congresswoman from what, Arizona, who disappeared?
Diane Feinstein from California.
No, 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 the one from, I think she was from
Oh, the
Arizona, and she was a.
congresswoman that, yeah, her husband is the senator there.
No, no, no,
Um,
no, no, she was a part of Congress, and she was, like, nobody had seen her for, like, 6 months, and come to find out she's,
oh
like,
yeah,
in
you're
a
right.
nursing home with dementia or
Yes.
Alzheimer's.
No, no, no,
Like,
no.
that.
You're right. I just saw that this week. Yes. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of something completely different. Yeah. I actually just saw that. There was, yeah, some congresswoman from Arizona has been sitting in a fucking dementia park, okay, for like ever now. Like nobody knows where she was at. You're absolutely right. You're 100% correct. I just
Yeah,
saw that
like,
this
that's
week.
I like, that is so wild. So, like, she's part of Congress, and nobody has seen her for 6 months, and nobody's, like, picking up the phone, like, "Hey, like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
But she's still getting paid the salary from people who voted for her, and
Yeah.
she's in a nursing home? I
How
mean,
about the
like,
Secretary
that's
of
wild.
Defense from the last administration? That Austin Powers dude.
Oh,
Okay,
oh,
he was
yeah, I know.
constantly fucking MIA, okay, and
Mm,
was his health was shit, okay, and he was constantly missing and laid up in hospitals all the time and everything, and we would never know where the fuck he was. He wouldn't even tell the president. Well, it wasn't the president running the country anyway, it was his interns. He wouldn't even
right,
tell the interns, okay,
right.
where he was at.
Did you watch that? And speaking of that, really quick, I'm gonna like sidetrack for a second. Did
Okay.
you watch? Did you watch that interview that I mentioned in, like, I think a reel or my story on Instagram, where I was like, "Do not sleep on Sean Ryan's interview with Lindy Lee. Like, don't sleep on that interview. Like, you need to
Yeah.
watch it." That interview solidified so many things that us as conservatives have been saying for years. And I mean, you're talking about something things straight from the horse's mouth. Like, really. I mean, she said, like, it was Jill Biden and like staffers, like, people, like, we
Yeah.
don't even know, like,
Yeah.
that staffers that were running. Well, and she even said too, she was like, this is, it was Obama's third term. Like, most definitely it was Obama's third term. And it was just like, it was so satisfying to hear her speak on it. And you could tell, like, this girl had so much to say and so much to talk about, but obviously she didn't
Uh,
get everything out. But,
well,
like,
I know she tried with Laura Loomer, and Laura Loomer just fucking ripped her to shreds, from what I understand.
really.
Yeah, Laura Loomer made her cry on the show and everything like that. Yeah, I could actually let me pull that up for you.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't seen that. I
yeah,
told I kept saying to my husband when I was I had it on YouTube while I was, like, in the kitchen, just, cleaning and cooking dinner or whatever, and I kept saying to my husband, I'm like, "Oh my god," I'm like, "Hillary is gonna go after her. Hillary is gonna go after her," and my husband's like,
yeah,
"Oh my god, will
uh,
you stop?" Like, quit saying
yeah.
that.
Laura Loomer went in on her, and
How
stuff,
long
and she
ago?
made her cry on her show. I think this was the article's from today, so I think it was her show sometime this week. Hang on, I'll pull it up on the screen,
Oh my god,
and
that's
I'll read a little bit of the
crazy.
article. Yeah, it says explosive confrontation. Kamala Harris's ex-advisor Lindy Lee breaks down in tears as Laura Loomer grills her over past anti-Trump attacks, accusing her of being a
Oh.
CCP operative. And then just I'll just go to the exchange because they have it actually they have like what was said. Let me get to it. It's down. This is let me see, Lindy. Okay, so she says here. You know what? Let's just fucking watch it.
One
Yeah,
thing
like
that
I
I
know.
always made sure when I ran for Congress is that I never told a lie, and I made sure that everything that I said was backed up with receipts and that I could prove every claim that I was making, especially about my background, because it's very important that if you are running for public office, that people feel that they can trust you. And so I wanted to just ask you up front, you said that you didn't speak Chinese, and yet I've posted multiple videos of you from your time running for Congress and multiple interviews that you've done that show you speaking Mandarin. And obviously, there's different dialects of Chinese, Mandarin Chinese. And so, why did you say that you don't speak Chinese when you clearly do speak Chinese?
I encourage Laura, I saw the first clip. I don't think I saw any subsequent ones, but in terms of the first clip, I actually encourage people to watch it. I think I said, thank you for inviting me or thank you for having me in Chinese. And the rest, 99% of what I said was English. You could tell how deeply uncomfortable I was. My Chinese is at a rudimentary level. If you think a kindergarten level of Chinese is speaking Chinese, then fine. But honestly, my inability to speak Chinese has become a running family joke. My parents especially tease me because I'm not able to converse. I speak to them in English and they speak to me in Chinese. I can understand them, but I can't articulate myself very well. It's basically Chinglish, and it's really, really bad. So, Laura, I stand by my statement. I'm not able to have a fluent conversation. And I saw another clip floating around, and someone spliced together a video of me speaking Chinese, but it was a 2-hour event. And they took like the 5 instances of me speaking Chinese using very broken Chinese. And I even said, what is that word? It was for a very simple word. So I learned my lesson today. What I should have said is I speak shitty Chinese. I think the lesson in this situation is not to make broad sweeping generalizations. Yes, I can say, hi, how are you? Like, goodbye, thank you for having me. But I cannot have an intellectual discussion with you in Chinese.
昨天晚上，你们很多人，我同学们或者是我的年纪的人在玩的时候，我就听 I was Newtown Square 康州离这不远，对不对？谁可以想到有26个孩子，20个孩子，6个老师会被
This bitch
我们都是第一代，对不对
Yeah, but if you actually look at it, she's right. You can see where they split it a couple of times.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
可以就是可
You
以
can see where they split it and clipped
我们
it.
前几年我还记得是2月份
So it makes it
2014
look, they
年，
made
你
it
告
look
诉
like she
我
was
身
having
上
this
最
long, lengthy
突
conversation.
出的一件
But she did speak some Chinglish there.
She did, she did.
只有这么一条优点。
只有一条。
It's like my fucking broken Spanglish. Like,
非常累的时候，你还是拼命的去追求你的梦想。季先生把我送过来的时候，又麻烦他了，对不起。我们就讨
yeah, I agree with you.
我们现
I
在有
agree with you,
很多
Jonathan.
优秀
Yeah,
发
I
言
was
的
just
孩
gonna
子。
say her tones are off. Yeah. See, like
Yeah.
that is the problem with the internet, right? Like that is the problem with the internet.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you brought that up because I was gonna say, like, in this interview, she just like put it all out there. And I was just like, you got to give her credit for doing this. She was leaking to the press back in 2022. She was leaking to somebody at Fox and somebody at MSNBC. But, there were parts of that interview, and I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if other people picked it up. And everything that she was saying, there were parts of that interview that seemed really like disingenuous to me, like
Right.
almost that. And I was just kind of like, I want to believe her, and I think I do believe her, but I don't. There is a part of me that's kind of like, I don't know about this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like something is off, but again, like,
I think
would
it's
be- I
okay
would be-
I think it's completely and totally safe to be skeptical and, but I think we should listen, especially if she's dropping dime on people, listen to it, right? But I think we
I
should be
mean,
skeptical of her.
yeah.
I think part of it is a grift because she doesn't have a home right now. Because like, she came out right away when the money was like, where the fuck is this money gone and stuff like that. And she jumped on it, right? Because she got out in front of it is what she did, which is smart. Very politically savvy to get out in front of it when she knew the shit was going to get leaked. And then, of course,
Yeah.
they abandoned her right away, right? Because she had
Well-
the audacity, to speak out against Kamala. But I think she's grifting some. I think she's looking for a home, right? Like, she's
Well,
looking,
she
she
part
raises
of the
money for
RNs
people.
Yeah, well, she's
Yeah,
part of the RNC.
because she's
No.
We have a long history, both sides, by the way, have a long history of people who have raised money for both sides. Just
Oh
all they
yeah.
do is just raise money. That's all
And
they
you
do
know
is
what?
raise money. Now, I think
I'm not gonna hate on her for kind of flip flopping because
I don't
given
know
the
if she's
state,
necessarily flipped.
or like, well, that's true. That's true. Like we have to kind of keep that in the back of our heads because we have
Yeah,
learned our lesson the hard way a few times. But
correct.
what I'm saying is like there have been a lot of people who have changed the way the thought process and the way they view
Absolutely.
politics, and they engage more in politics ever since COVID, right? Like
Yeah.
COVID seems to
Yeah.
be the main thing that kind of shifted everybody's focus to kind of politics and what's going on. But anyway, like I, even though she has moved over to the RNC, for her to be out there putting names to people and like
Yeah,
this
she
person did
is.
this,
I give her
and
respect for
you
that.
know, she said in that interview, she was like, what's his name? Hunter Biden was like going to these meetings. He doesn't have security clearance or anything, like going to
Yeah,
these
that
meetings and
doesn't
making
surprise me
decisions
though,
for his
right?
father. I mean, like
Yeah.
she's really risking her life at this point. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I'm like, I do kind of give her credit, but there is a part of me that was like, okay, like is she being for real? Not with the name dropping, because I mean, like she did have a lot to say about that, but there was a certain other thing. I'm just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but
it's kind of hard to take it all in, right? Because you know that she was good at what she did on the other side, right? And you just want to make sure you want to just again you want to raise money for us, that's all, but we're gonna have eyes on you, like fucking flies on shit. Okay, it's
well,
gonna be the way it is. Just we got
she
to
did.
keep an eye because like you don't know what if she has ulterior motives, and you got to make sure that you root that shit out right away.
And well, and you know what? And it's crazy that we have to think that way, but I mean, like, look at what has
It is.
transpired over the last, well, and I'm going to say last 4 years, but I mean, like, it's been like I mean, a lot of it that we're like privy to has been like
Mhm.
the last 8 years, right? That's kind of where our focus is like the last 8 years. But I mean, like, shit like this has
Yep.
been going on for decades, but I mean, it shouldn't even be like that. And I mean, like, I do agree with the people that are out here that it's like it's not red versus blue. It is not Democrat versus Republican, because I don't think that is the case. I think we are seeing, and there have been a few people that said it. One person in particular, and I cannot remember his name, but like this is a new political side that we're seeing right now. Like, and it's the conservatives that are shifting this to this new political, side of the aisle. This is just a new kind of political affiliation that we are in. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because I feel like we have seen so many people. You're talking about lifelong Democrats, like Elon. He was a Democrat. The best thing that ever happened to us was Joe Biden not inviting him to that EV summit at the White House, because then Elon was
Yep.
like, okay, well, fuck off, Like,
Yeah.
you're seeing people like that kind of shift a little bit. And even
Well,
like,
they also the Biden administration also went after him financially, right? Like in Delaware in particular, he still hasn't gotten his money. Okay, he was supposed to get a payout that he's been able to get, and the AG and some federal judges have been holding his money up and stuff like that. So he was supposed to get a payout. Okay, and it's so they went after him, and he just kind of got tired of it. Like but even with Elon, right? Um, they pissed him off. Okay, and he's like, well, all right, fuck you guys, right? And then Trump brought him in. RFK Jr. Fucking 90% of the things that come out of his mouth I disagree with, but on the health things I don't. Okay, on the big, fighting against big pharma and big ag and stuff like that to save local farmers and to save, talking about we're getting our food from fucking China. We're getting beef from China. Why is that
no,
even a thing? You know what
that
I'm
should
saying?
that,
It's
it
like,
shouldn't be a thing. It should be. I mean, like, we're getting like, beef from China. Like, I watched a thing about garlic not that long ago, and the shit that we get from China, like I was like, this is why I grow my own food. This is why I have
yeah,
a garden. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because it's just like the cesspool that they're growing garlic in China and sending it over to us. Come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
that is just so obscene. I don't even
Yeah,
know. It's
I'm with you,
wild.
Jonathan. I'm leery of Loomer too. She. It's not like she hasn't said some good things in the past and stuff like that, but they're well, anyway.
Well, I think
Patriot.
all reporters you have to be skeptical of to some
Yeah,
extent. I mean, there
yeah.
are good ones, but I mean, at the same
Oh,
time,
yeah,
I think,
definitely. But
like, I
yeah,
think,
you're right.
would What did that say?
Oh, he
Delaware
said,
is losing.
he said Delaware is losing business registrations because of what they did to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Businesses are moving out just like that, like what they're doing out of New York. Yeah, they've been fleeing out of New York for a long time, and out of California, everywhere where they punish you to do business. You know, a lot of good businesses are leaving. What was it? Gun manufacturer. I think it was Colt that was in New York forever. And when they started passing some more of the restrictive 2A laws and stuff like that, and trying to sue them for shit, they just packed their shit up, and a whole town got fucking laid out for no jobs because they picked up and left. Their whole business, everybody in that town, which was a small town, essentially worked at Colt. And they got
Yeah.
up and was like, "Fuck you guys, we're just gonna we'll move somewhere else," and stuff like that. And that's what's happening.
That's crazy. You know what? You totally just jogged my memory. Like, whatever happened with Tyson? Remember Tyson chicken, that whole thing with
Yeah,
when the illegals started coming over and they were like
yeah,
firing Americans and hiring the illegals at like
yeah.
a lower wage? Like, what's going on with that? Like, we haven't heard anything about that
I
since that
haven't
whole
heard
thing
anything
happened.
about that in a long time, honestly. Well, I mean,
Like,
with the way they're doing immigration enforcement now in the last in these past 3 weeks is
right,
something. Yeah, you know,
man.
whole.
Like,
Have you seen some of the video footage of like a whole construction site, no workers at all? You know,
yeah,
but what does that say about the companies that are hiring them, right? Instead of hiring Americans and paying them a fucking good wage, you know, they hire these guys at a cheaper wage and stuff like that. Oh, they do great work. They do jobs that Americans want. No, if you just hire Americans, okay, and give them a fucking solid wage, they'll do the work too.
yeah, yeah. You know, it like I don't know. It's so crazy. I mean, honestly, like, people are like, oh well, like he's breaking up families and he's this and that. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I heard Tom Homan say that he was going to deport families together. So I don't know what you're upset about.
Yeah,
Like the kicker to me is like, you're mad about the illegals being sent back across the border or sent back to their countries, wherever they came from.
yeah,
But you're not mad about the people who are trying to immigrate to this country legally, whose paperwork has been sitting on somebody's desk for 4 years trying to get here and do things the right way. That doesn't make you mad? Like,
I know.
that's just really kind of fucked up to me. That's messed up logic to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, I
it
like
is. It's totally
eh,
it's fucked up.
it
Jonathan just
is.
gave us an update on the Tyson food. If
Oh,
you
yeah,
pull it
yeah.
up, I told you he's good at this shit, right? We'll talk about
Yeah, oh
something, and
my gosh.
he's
That's
great at this
awesome.
shit. Yeah, so he says ICE and Tyson Foods partner in an effort to protect the nation's lawful workforce. This is from 2011. This is Washington. Tyson Foods Inc. is the newest member of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's nationwide program designed to encourage businesses to collaborate with ICE and use hiring best practice to ensure they are maintaining a lawful workforce. That's just something else, man. I guess
Whoa.
they must have got a smackdown, and then were forced to freaking capitulate. They probably, I'm pretty sure the government went after them pretty hard,
Oh, I'm sure.
and
I'm
sued the
sure.
fuck out of them and stuff like that. And then at the time, 2011, that was the Obama administration. So if the Obama
Yeah.
administration, well, remember he was the deporter in chief,
All right.
okay, because he was
Right.
deported, like he was like the deporter in chief, like he's the one who put them in cages and all that other shit, and he deported them, fucking millions of them in his 8 years.
Do you like look at those numbers from like Obama, like the numbers of illegals that he deported and Biden and stuff like that, like, or not so much Biden with deportations because we know that didn't
Yeah, he didn't
happen.
do
But
anything.
like Biden, and let's just take the number of pardons that he handed out, it was like 8,000. Do you ever look at those numbers and be like,
Yeah, it was
what
insane.
the well, like, what the fuck, like,
Yeah, it was
you
insane.
know, like
But what made it
I,
worse is that Biden was pardoning like child molesters and rapists and
but then
murderers and all kinds of stuff like that,
but
and
those
commuting their
people.
sentences and stuff like that.
Well, right, but all those people that were on death row or whatever for doing the same
Yeah,
things, he's like, "Oh yeah, like on my way
yeah.
out, I'm gonna pardon." Like, I want to know, like, who honestly signed those pardons? It was probably
Well, it wasn't
Jill.
him.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
was
wasn't him.
100%. It wasn't him. I mean, like,
Yeah,
in that interview with Sean Ryan that Lindy Lee did, she said that his hours of function were 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and that was it every
I
day.
remember.
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
No, I remember that. Yeah, he just
So
didn't work.
I don't know. Like, but sometimes I just wonder where they get those numbers from. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, oh, polls say that blah 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 blah, and it's just like, well, what, like, I've never taken like a random poll. Like, where are you getting these numbers from? Like, I want to know. Like, I don't know.
No,
Maybe
as you
that's
see,
just like,
the
oh,
polls
go
were
ahead.
shit until right to the end, right? Like, eventually leading up to the election, the polls had shifted in Trump's favor and whatnot, but they were already in his favor. So like for me,
Well,
when I
that's
was
what
looking at the polls,
go ahead.
leading up to it, where it still was showing Biden up, well, Kamala up, I'm sorry. I was like, if she's up by 2%, that means he's actually up by like 3 or 4. And then it turned
Yeah.
out he just fucking blew her out of the water in some of the
Well,
states.
like, like he was slated, like, and the media, I guess, all knew it. Like, he was slated to get like pretty much all the electoral votes. And I don't know, but like, and the media is reporting that she's like winning, or she's got like
Yeah,
this
yeah, that was
chance,
intentional.
or she's
That,
even
but that's
competing. And it's just like she
yeah,
wasn't competing at all. Like, it doesn't.
yeah,
And
that was for voter suppression though. That was to try to get us, okay,
oh
to not
yeah.
come out, right? To be, to be like, apathetic about things. Oh no, she's winning. But what they fail to understand, like they always understand, is that the base has changed. The Republican
Yeah.
base has changed. It isn't just about, most of us, we understand MAGA, we understand Trump, okay, but we're looking past Trump. All right. I tell people all the time, you have to, okay, he's in, but we only have at best, okay, 2 years. Now I think we can fucking add to our leads, because they're still using their same playbook, the bullshit that isn't working. Let them keep doing it. Keep digging your grave. I'm fine with that. Right?
Yeah,
That just helps
absolutely.
us in 2026. Then it helps us again in 2028. But we have to play with the assumption that we're only going to have 2 years of being in control of everything to get shit, a whole bunch of shit done. So even though he's doing all these executive orders that are fantastic and great, if our Congress, both the House of Representatives and Senators, don't put a bill in front of him, okay, so he can codify this shit and put it in law, it means nothing, because if we lose in 2028, the next guy comes in and fucking wipes it all clean.
Yeah.
So we have to be pushing our representatives. Get him a fucking bill. Get him bills in front of. He'll sign them because he's already written executive orders for him. Just
Oh yeah.
give him a bill for him to put this shit into law.
I don't think that like there is going to be this big comeback from the
I don't think
the,
so
the
either. I'm
Democrats.
not feeling that
I mean,
either.
you fucked up. You don't have like this golden senator like your Obama just waiting in the
Yeah.
wings to present to
Yeah.
people. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have that. And I mean, like, it's going to be a long, hard road for Democrats because, again,
Yeah.
like, we're seeing a new style of political affiliation, and it's the
Yeah.
conservatives. And we're talking about it's not red and blue anymore. It truly is good versus evil at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
like, let's just call it what it is. That is 100% good versus evil, because I don't know anybody who wants to let children have, these gender affirming surgeries, and or taking hormones, and let's play like, oh, like, I want to put on a wig and some mascara today, and I want to pretend I can go into a woman's bathroom. Like, these transgender men that are out here doing, like, that's not normal, right? Like,
No, it's not.
it's not normal.
Li-
And
Listen,
people have just had enough.
is there a small percentage of people from the studies that actually genuinely have gender dysphoria? Absolutely, right? Like that's an actual thing. So we can't say that
Oh
it's
yeah.
not. But this thing that has gone on with mutilating our kids and everything, and warping their minds, all right, at a young age, that is all indoctrination. That is all because in the end, a lot of these people who are pushing this stuff have nefarious fucking, reasons why they're doing it. They want to desensitize kids to sexuality so that they can essentially, so they can bang your kids. That's what they want to do.
Well, okay, so like, I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's just like, the more and more that we hear, and kind of like, these rabbit holes that we all kind of go down looking into things. When did everybody become a pedophile? Like, when did that happen? I mean, but the weird thing about it though is, like, this isn't new. Like, this has been
Oh,
going on
it's
for
been around for
years
a
and
long
years,
time.
years
It,
and
it
years and
was
years,
it
and
was
it's just
it's
like,
been going on forever. But the thing is it was okay, so they didn't have the platform to be open about it, right? And this is why the shift happened with us, okay, where we got more freaking intent on digging our heels in and fucking not only protecting kids, but like we're done with all this crazy shit, all right? Why so many Gen Xers came out, okay, and older millennials like yourself came out to actually vote this time, all right? Why so many Gen Z, believe it or not, Gen Z fucking represented, which
Oh
reminds me,
yeah.
speaking of Gen Z, next Friday, fam, I'm gonna have two Gen Z what do you call it? God, state Jesus. I can't the word I'm looking I, I can't think of the word. Anyway, they helped somebody get elected in the state of California, so I'm bringing them on. There were two Gen Zers. They helped his campaign for a school board position, and they got him reelected. Actually, it started with a recall. State of California, so they're going to recall a conservative, but they were able to get him elected. These two Gen Zers, and they're going to come on and tell everything next Friday. So just want to give everybody. Speaking of Gen Z,
That's
but
cool. That's cool.
it's really cool. But we got up and we stood up and said no more. Okay,
Well,
and
right, but like,
it's
but
like we're
it's
not
just
doing
like,
this shit anymore.
it's just like, like I'm just kind of thinking, like, how do you go up to somebody and be like, how do you initiate a conversation like that with somebody? Like, oh, like I'm into this. Are you? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's so weird that it's just out there, and it's not just like out there in like this little circle. Like it's
Well,
out there and it's everywhere, and I don't understand. Like,
I want to say up until the 1990s, the DSM-5 was homosexuality was still a mental issue.
right?
Okay. And then when they took that out of it being a mental issue and stuff like that, then it opened up the door. But again, that's just one aspect of it, right? All of this was done by design with different things, right? So you had
Oh, well, right.
the whole psychological thing, they did away with some of the things, okay? They labeled, we people with gender dysphoria, and they used that, okay, as a
Yeah.
platform. And who helped them in 2014, 2015? Who was the president at the time? Our first gay president, President Obama. Okay, he
Oh,
was
right.
able to,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, he was able. He pushed that tranny shit, that transformer shit, like right, like fucking bottle rockets and stuff like that. He was setting them off. Okay,
Yeah.
and that just caused a domino effect. And when they had somebody in power, like the president of the United States, and they had his ear and they had his voice, then they were like, we can come out and just start saying what we feel, okay, and what we
Yeah.
want to do, because not only did he protect them, then other people join, even people who were like, maybe not, but because they were lockstep, all right, behind Obama, they went with it, and then they eventually joined in on it and became indoctrinated with it too. It's like, yeah, this is correct. This is the right way. These people are normal. There's nothing fucking normal about them.
No, I don't. Like, it's just so weird to me that is. I guess in the I guess we'll just say in it's not just the elites, obviously, but like
Yeah,
in that elite world, that it is almost a normal thing to them, and that is just like I didn't realize that there are a lot of fucked up people in this world, but
there is.
like how would you get there? It's just weird to me. It is just
Well,
weird to me.
it's
And
just it's
speaking of,
again, it's.
oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. What were we gonna say? Go ahead. No, no,
Oh,
go
I was
ahead.
just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say,
Sorry.
and speaking of like gender dysphoria, you know what kind like obviously, yes, we know that is like, there is some,
But yeah,
mental,
it's a
illness.
thing. It's a small percentage of people. It's a thing.
Do you know what I kind of like, the basket that I put that in is with the people, and I forgot what it's called. It's like something identity. It's the individuals who feel like they don't feel like they should have like their arm, right? And they will remove
Oh
their arm. Like
yes.
the woman
I
who
I know
blinded
what you're talking
herself
about.
because she felt like
Yeah, yeah.
she shouldn't see. I put it in like that
Jonathan,
basket, in
Jonathan,
that
can you
category.
we're having brain farts right now.
I
What is it
know.
called when you
It's been a
what
long
is it
week.
called when you want to essentially you want to mutilate yourself, like, that lady who took her eyes and all that other stuff. You feel like you got to cut your arm
Oh
off.
my god,
Jonathan to
what is it
figure it out.
called?
You
It's
know
like
what?
B. I
I
think it's like
wish Yeah, I
BIID or
wish
B.
one and only Blondie
Yeah.
was here. I mean, she's not in the chat. She would know. She would drop it in the chat for us. She's good with this stuff. She's on the medical side of things. Well, now legal
Oh, is
side,
she?
but she was in, yeah. So
Oh,
she would have been able to drop it for us. Um, so again, they had the protection. Once they had the protection, it was fucking, game over, right? So then what do? All right, so then they start putting people in place, especially in particular with kids in schools, and you start desensitizing them from a young kid. So when I
Yeah.
heard a number like a year or two ago, and it was like, oh, almost 50% of freaking uh kids and stuff identify as part of the alphabet mob, and I'm like, that's because 90% of them have been 90 to fucking 98% of them have actually been indoctrinated and don't really feel that way, and they've been told that something was wrong with them just because they were getting bullied by the kid next to them, and then they came in, I don't feel right because I got my ass kicked. Oh, well, you're a tranny. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we're going to
Yeah.
transform you and stuff like that. That's what's really going on with you. Not that you got your ass kicked by the bigger kid, okay, who was bullying you, but you're not feeling right mentally.
I just I just feel so bad for these kids. It's like when you see like that the dad who went viral for, like letting his son pretend he was a girl, and these
Yeah, I
parents out
saw
here
that.
that like, oh, my 4 kids are all transgender. Like, no, they're not.
Oh,
Like
here we
that's
go.
not a thing. Oh, what is it?
I told you Jonathan will come up with it.
No, I mean, yes, he's right, but there is another word for it. There is another name for it. I'm gonna, I'm gonna look it up. I think it's like, is it like something body integrity?
Well, that might be the new
That
thing
this
for it,
is
but
the
I think
it must have.
I think that's the older term for it,
No,
the Lesch-Nahan syndrome.
yeah, he's right. It's like body integrity, identity. That body
Yeah,
integrity, identity.
that might be
That's
the
what it is.
DI. What you're coming up with is the DEI version of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly.
That's what you're coming up with.
Oh my god. Wow, it
Yeah,
works,
they
don't
changed
you think?
everything with DEI. They changed names for everything. It's insane.
I don't know.
It's
It's like
ridiculous.
mental illness. It's just all it. I mean, like
Huh, there you go.
we
Here we go. I told you
body
he'll get it.
integrity, identity disorder. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the DEI version.
yeah. That's so wild, man. That's so wild. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they keep coming up with new shit, right? And it's, again, it is to desensitize these children for nefarious reasons. All right,
It
you
is.
can't convince me otherwise. All right, because you know kids are confused. A kid will wake up one morning and want to be a fucking Scooby Doo. You know what I'm saying? And then the next day they want to be Optimus Prime. So it's just like, what are you talking about? That they don't know.
I
You know
know.
what I'm saying? They're kids. And the studies, okay, we've had to talk about these studies over and over, all right, on is they did a study in Sweden, all right, a 15-year study of this, and it ultimately comes down to, and I did a video on this one, some of the first videos I did, was if you just leave the kids alone, okay, they will figure it out. There was a small minor percentage of them that still felt that way. Many of them turned out to end up being gay and stuff like that. But if you just left them alone, there was no mutilation involved. And then we had a study that started, I think, in 2015, and the quack from California, she's actually in one of those hospitals in California, was part of the Obama administration, and they did a study starting in 2015 to find out, and it got released. Actually, they didn't release it last year because they were terrified, all right, of the repercussions of it, showing that puberty blockers don't help children. Like, duh, we knew that, right? Didn't help their mental psyche and all this other stuff that they were saying that it does. Convincing parents. This woman convinced parents, and if you're a parent and you got convinced, you're just a fucking moron, okay?
Right.
Because you're not protecting your
100%.
kid, all right? But convincing parents to let their kids be part of the study, all right, and inject them full of shit, all right, all this garbage that absolutely destroys them, okay, and it's irreparable. You can't change them back. There's nothing you can do once you start fucking with their puberty. It's done,
Mhm.
okay. And sure enough, they didn't release it. She didn't want to release it because she was worried about the backlash that was going to come with it. And it eventually got released, but she was terrified to release it.
Oh my god. That is tragic. I like do these parents who are out here doing this to their children, and I mean, we have seen it. We have seen people like your teachers out here kind of using their I guess, their power as a teacher in a classroom to kind of push this on children. And I guess my like, have they not seen the interviews with these individuals who went through this when they were younger, and who they're like, they call it like detransitioning now, and how their lives are
Yeah.
just like completely like, have you not
Yeah.
watched that? Have you not seen the aftermath? I mean, some of the things that go along with this too, with like the whole dilating every day, like
Yeah.
like that. Why would you want that? Like, why
Yeah,
would
it's
you
terrible.
want that?
It's terrible. I mean, the sad thing, what makes it even worse with these poor kids who are detransitioning is that their so-called community fucking abandons them the minute they start realizing that this shit is fucked up. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have mutilated myself. I shouldn't have. It mainly it. So two things have happened, right? So with the transition of boys, that's mainly these fucking affluent white fucking female liberals, okay, who
Oh
have
yeah,
these who wanted freaking daughters, okay, so they traumatize their boys and try to turn them into little girls because they've always wanted daughters, right? And then
it's
you
like the
have
liberal
the
women that
same
hate men.
yeah,
Yeah, like they're just
yeah, and
destroying their
it's the same
kids.
women that do this, the same women that wanted a son, okay, do this shit to their daughters. And then the fucking cuckold men that go along with this because they're pussies, all right, and they don't want to stand up. They're not like the Adam Venus of the world who are willing to fucking fight tooth and nail for their son, all right? They go along with this shit. So, it's terrible what
It
happens. And these
is.
poor girls that end up mutilating, they do freaking double mastectomies at like 13, and they're ruining themselves, okay? And they ruin their bodies. The puberty blockers don't do anything. They don't end up sounding like men. They just have deep raspy voices, okay? And they have these long freaking vocal cords that they can't talk with and stuff. It's horrible what it's done, and
Yeah.
none of this shit can be repaired.
Yeah.
You
You
know?
know, it's wild. Like, the social media is a wild place because the other day, I mean, I'm sure you saw it too, but I mean, I'm just gonna refer to them as a lesbian couple, no big deal,
Hmm.
whatever. But they both got the double mastectomies. And it's just like, and they were like showing it off on social media, and it's just like
Crazy.
you just ruined your whole life. I mean,
Yeah, it's
like, and I
crazy.
feel like, what about, like, you have women out there that are like having to do this because of breast cancer and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and you're just like,
Right.
oh yay, like we did this for fun because it's the
Yeah.
trendy thing. Like, that's so fucked up. Like, that's so fucked
Yeah.
up to me. I can't. I don't know. I mean, it's just tragic. I just feel like, and you even have, I mean, like, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. There is a couple of trans influencers who have,
Yeah.
males that transitioned into females that are actually are out here, and they're like, stop fucking up your kids. Like, you don't want this life for your kids. Like,
Yeah.
but and I'm gonna give them credit because
No,
they
yeah, I
did their
listen,
thing
I
as adults. Cool, okay, great. They're
yeah,
like, hey, leave
see,
the children
again,
alone.
that is my thing, and I've said it before, right? Just leave children alone. Leave fucking
Yeah,
kids out of it. And what you decide to do once you're a legal adult, okay, that's up to you. All right, that is completely and totally up to you. Even if I disagree with it, and I think your way of life is just freaking tragic and evil, and you're most likely going to go to hell. Doesn't matter. As an
yeah.
adult, I can't tell you what to do. Period. It doesn't matter. I might try to dissuade you from doing it, but once you don't listen to me, that's it. I already tried. You do what you feel is best for you, and you live your life how you see fit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think one of the best videos that actually came out and hit social media was the guy who walked around and started asking random people, "Do you think a 12-year-old should be able to get a tattoo?" And everybody was like, "No, because
Said
that's
no.
that
Yeah.
is a an adult decision. That is a lifelong decision." And then he was like, "Well, how do you feel about a
Yeah.
child transitioning? Should they be able to make that decision?" And then they were like, "Well, that's yeah, because that's different." So you're telling
Yeah.
me, where is the logic there? A 12-year-old can't get a tattoo because that's a lifelong decision, but you're okay with them making a decision to remove their genitals?
Yeah. It's
Like,
terrible.
like but that was, I think, one of the best, videos that hit the internet because it's just that right there just shows people the stupidity behind this and the craziness
Yeah.
behind this. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying? It's wild. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there some of these kids aren't going to be able to come back from this. And I'm
Most of
not
them.
saying,
Most of them won't be able to
you know
come
what
back.
I'm talking about, like the parents who are out here manipulating them into thinking that they are something that they're not. Like, they're seeing it on the internet and they're seeing it, their parents are just like, that's what they're doing to them, just grooming them to be these things. And it's just like, how do you as a
Yes.
kid come back from that? I mean, like, we didn't
Yeah.
have to deal with this craziness when we were kids. We were outside. We didn't, we weren't allowed in the house. Like, we had to be home for dinner, but like we weren't allowed in the house. Like we had to be outside
Right.
and playing, you know? So I'm very grateful that we grew up in the era that we did, because
Yeah,
this is
we were able to, we had to play until the lights came on, and then then we had to
exactly
come in. If we came in before that, we caught a fucking belt for not coming into the house when we weren't supposed to,
right,
or we got yelled at to
right,
get back outside. Go back outside, go play,
right,
But even back then, right? Like again, even back then, these predators were in hiding because
right.
shame was a thing, right? Like being shamed for fucking being a mongrel and being evil and stuff like that, and retribution was a thing back then. And when it stopped
Right.
being a thing, and they were able to people were able to come out and what do you call it, just be who they were and be evil out in the open. Right, because that's what it is. It's evil and it's demonic and it's
Oh,
satanic, in my opinion.
100%.
All right, you can't change. You can't tell me any otherwise. All right,
I think
but
I
now
well,
they can
I
do it out in the open.
well, like I've heard, and I haven't looked into numbers or anything, but I'm sure you probably have. Um, but a lot of people have started like going back to church and just
So I
believing
did a
in
video
God.
about that.
And,
It's funny.
you know what I'm saying? And it's just like you know, I think that
I
is a
did a
good
video about
thing.
that.
Did
I
you?
did a video about I did a video in particular about Gen Z. Gen Z,
Mhm.
it was the name of the video. You could find it from 2024. You'll find it in my playlist. It was one of my first videos I ever did because before I started doing lives, I was doing short forms, and it's actually like I think either 12 to 20-minute video. And the name of it is Gen Z bringing bringing Jesus back, and it's a picture of of a church and stuff like that, the inside of a cathedral, and it was showing in the article was showing that what do you call it, Gen Zers in particular were going to more traditional churches, like some of the older churches. They were going to Eastern Orthodox, they were becoming Catholics and stuff like that. So it was surprising to me being a Catholic. I was like, what? And then one of the other things they were saying was that a lot of the younger priests going into Eastern Orthodox, not more into Catholicism, becoming Catholic priests, were becoming more conservative and pushing back against the church. And I was like, that's a great thing. I was like, I haven't been into a church for that same reason, right?
Right.
I've said it a lot, right? That Marxism was creeping in the late 19th, early 20th century into the United States, right? They were already in full tilt. It was already full tilt in Europe, but they had to come here and sneak into because of our constitution and everything like that. And they infiltrated absolutely every institution, including our churches, because the church, whether it was Catholic or Protestant, didn't make a difference. In Europe,
Right.
the churches were the big pushback against communism. Okay, and it didn't make a set, like I said, didn't make a difference. The denomination, the church as a whole, all right, was pushing back against Marxism. So they knew they would have that same problem here. So they had to actually infiltrate, right? So they got into our churches, they got into our schools, they got into our college, and then with the Rockefeller fucking in the late 19th century, okay, when with Rockefeller's suggestion to change how we teach our kids based on these, it was a Swedish model, I believe. He visited a Swedish factory or something like that, or the schools out there, and saw how they were essentially building worker bees because it was based on socialism. We changed our system here. And once we did that, that was just the communists, okay, the Marxists that were behind the scenes was like, oh, this is perfect for us.
Yeah.
This is perfect. Now we can
Yeah.
just indoctrinate these kids from a young age, okay? And they did it for over 100 years. And sure enough,
You-
it's playing out right now.
oh
And
yeah.
and what has happened is playing out right now. What has happened is that people like you and I, okay, and other parents and other people who have always been fucking patriots and always loved this country, even though we know she has faults, we still love her. Okay, we just want to fix her. And now that we see what's going on, we're pushing back.
Yeah. Okay, so I love true crime, right? I have always been
Yes.
interested in true crime. I watch so much true crime. It's ridiculous. Like, but anyway, it's so weird to me because they took the church, right, and they masked themselves behind this great thing, this
Yeah.
religious thing. But so like in the true crime world, what I'm watching these like podcasts or documentaries or whatever, these predators, like they put themselves in a position where they're very like, you know, active in their communities, and
Yeah.
their baseball coach. It's like they mask themselves
Yes.
behind
Yes. They put them in
great
positions of authority.
these great things, so like they don't they're not suspect of anything, and it's
Yeah.
so so it's really unfortunate that they do that because, I mean, like your coaches and stuff like that, like your teachers,
They look like everyday people that are good
right?
people. They do things in the community and they make themselves. They present an image, okay, of being perfect when in fact they're very evil and imperfect. And at first opportunity, they do the evil stuff.
I
And
mean,
they
like
set it
let's
up. They
take the
plan it out.
couple.
They actually plan it out.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Well,
seen? Have you ever seen the PDF dude that was they were interviewing him and he was explaining how he what do you call it, goes after kids. He was essentially saying that he says, well, if I see a woman with the husband and he looks like he can fight and he's strong,
yes,
okay, he
yes,
goes, he
yes.
goes, I don't even bother. He goes, but
Who was that
I
guy?
look for single women with, I look for women, fatherless kids and all that other stuff where there
Yeah,
isn't a man in power. Okay, there wasn't a strong man around.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I have seen that. That is really. I mean, like let's take the couple in Georgia. You know what I'm talking about, right? That
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't. I mean, like I don't even want to get into it because
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
interesting
I
what's
know
going on.
exactly what you're gonna say.
But
I know who you're
they
talking about.
look what they did for a living, and look how active they were in their community, and then what they
Absolutely.
fucking did to these
Yeah.
kids, man. Like, oh
Yeah.
my god, I can't even.
Under the guise of taking care of them, right?
I know.
Of bringing them in and giving them a home and all this other stuff and everything and
Oh
keeping
my
them
god.
together because they were siblings and stuff like that. Think about how evil
You
that is.
do you know that they were in the process of adopting a third child when this all
Yes.
took place? Oh my
Yeah, yeah,
god.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
heartbroken.
it's horrible shit, man. And it's just a terrible thing. And again,
It
we just
is.
gotta protect our kids. We
I
just
don't
have
care.
to
I don't
protect our
like
kids.
I don't care whose kid. Like if something weird is going down, I don't care whose kid it is. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna defend that kid.
Absolutely. We
Like
used to do that. Like it was a thing. We used to do that. We took care of each other's kids. Like, if I was doing something up the block, okay, that I wasn't supposed to be doing, somebody, so and so, little Johnny's fucking dad or mom was gonna call my mother and father and let them know, okay, that hey, your son is doing this. He's not, he's acting up or whatever. I'm just letting you know. They were doing something that they weren't supposed to. And then when you got down, you got your ass kicked because it's like, what were you doing up the block? And then you start to lie and you do the verbal Bartusi and everything. And all of a sudden you got your ass kicked because your parents already knew what you were doing up the block, and you weren't
yeah.
supposed to. So like people policed each other's kids out of protection. It
Oh
was like,
yeah.
hey, we want to make sure that your kid doesn't get hurt, right? So like and my parents would do the same thing. If there's somebody's son or daughter was doing something they weren't supposed to, they call it. If there was somebody in the neighborhood that wasn't supposed to be there, all the parents were in lockstep, okay? And
Yeah.
they put that person in task. Who are you? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
They took the kids to the school bus stop or whatever, before they got on the bus and everything, and there was and they were watching and stuff. So yeah, that has gone away, unfortunately.
Well, listen, so like it was back in the summertime. I think it was probably like mid-July. And there was this little boy riding his bike on our street. And, you know, like he's got to live in the subdivision somewhere, but I've never seen this little boy before. And he just
Right.
looked out of his element. And all of a sudden, this black SUV pulls up next to him. So I'm looking out the window, and then finally, like, I go to my husband, I'm like, look at this. I get up and I fling open the front door, and I'm just
Right.
watching. And I'm watching them interact. And so then
Yeah.
I walk out on the porch and I can't hear what they're saying, what she's saying to him. It was a woman. It was a woman. What she's saying to him, but I'm like, and then she goes to put this little boy's bike in the trunk of her SUV.
Hmm.
So now I'm like, So I start walking down the driveway. Like she's putting like the bike's in the trunk at this point. She's getting in the car. Little boy's already in the passenger seat. And I go to the little boy. I'm like, do you know this woman?
Yeah.
I'm like, do you know this woman? And he was like, yeah, she's my neighbor. And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, he must have just like rode his bike away from home, like, and
Yeah.
because here came his dad on a bicycle, and she was the neighbor. But the look this woman gave me, like,
Yeah.
who are you and why are you talking to him, was
Yeah.
crazy. Because it was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know you, lady. I'm like, I
She
just want to
actually
know what
should
you're
have
doing.
been she should have been grateful, okay, that you stepped up not knowing and just saying, hey, just taking, even though she knew this little boy and was going to take this little boy home, she didn't have any nefarious, reasons to pick this boy up, and she wasn't going to do anything bad.
Right.
And the boy's father eventually came. They all should have just been happy that someone in the neighborhood was looking out for my son.
Yeah, no, and like the father, like kind of like waved to me, like he kind of waved and like nodded, like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it was just like that was just my instinct, right? Like I didn't even give it a
Yeah.
second thought. I'm like, what is going on here? And now I've made myself out to sound like the nosy neighbor, which I'm not. But it was just like just my instinct to go see what was going on, because it was just like, what is happening here? And it's really sad that like that is the mentality. You know what I'm saying?
You have to, like if you just got to be. Listen, I'd rather be wrong, okay, 100 times every time I do it, than that one time I decide not to, and I was right, and something happens to a kid. I won't be able to live with myself with that,
Oh,
So,
right. I mean, but it's always
it's
like,
just
yeah, because it's like people, they're like, oh, well, like I heard the gunshot I thought I heard a gunshot, but I didn't call the police. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to
yeah,
be that person,
yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't, we live in a crazy time.
Going back to Woody, this would have never happened if Woody would have called the police. Remember that Woody Woodpecker cartoon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Woody Woodpecker. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
We are
it
old,
just,
man. Oh my God.
oh my God, yeah. Yeah. And Woody Woodpecker was actually, even though they made a newer cartoon for like, I think they did in the 90s, they tried to make a new one. They did the same thing with Tom and Jerry, but the older cartoons were absolutely
Oh, the older
hysterical.
cartoons are the best. The best.
Yeah. The older
Like
cartoons was,
the older cartoons are so great. Like why did they have to mess with Scooby Doo? Like, just leave it alone. I don't
yeah.
know. Just leave it
What I
alone.
think it was Max, what Max did with what's her name, Velma, was just, I couldn't watch that. I didn't even bother. I was like, I'm not even going to get into that. It's just terrible. And it
Oh my
didn't do
gosh.
very well because, again, every IP that we grew up on is just shit right now because someone has come in because they didn't have their own creativity and they decided they wanted to either remake things or add to something that was already great and then absolutely fuck it up.
I know. It is quite crazy that they
Yeah,
have
it
done
is.
this with so many things. Like you're
Well,
ruining my childhood.
it's funny because I'm trying to get some of the people who've actually been fighting this culture war, the so-called geeks and gamers that everybody talks down on. Some of these guys have actually and ladies have been in the culture war for quite a long time, and many of them vote like we do, right? Every
Mhm.
time I hear somebody from Big Con say that, oh, if you're playing this game, you're fucking, down in your mother's basement, drinking Mountain Dew and eating Cheetos or some shit like that. When a lot of these men and women were, like I said, they might be gamers and they might be into Star Wars shit. I'm a geek. I'm into Star Wars and Star Trek and all that shit. Okay. But a lot of them have been fighting and been trying to tell people what's been happening in Hollywood and what's been happening in the comic world and what's been happening in video games and just trying to put it out that this DEI shit and all this woke stuff and all the IPs that we love that we grew up with are all absolutely destroyed and all worse shit now.
Yeah.
So it's terrible what's gone on.
It's crazy. My husband, he was like just almost like I'm pretty sure he thought I was like a little crazy, like when we first started dating, because like I would say some of these things and he's like, where are you getting that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
They always
it's
think
like
we're
now
crazy
that
in the
I
beginning
know, right?
until they see it. It's not until they actually see it with their own eyes, and that's what has to happen. People got to see
So
things with their own eyes.
right. So I started showing him like stuff and he was just like, oh my God. So there's still certain things that he's not ready to kind of like accept. And I'm like, that's okay. But
He'll
like
come around.
I ruined his whole life the other day because he had a
What'd you
Biggie
do?
he had a Biggie shirt on, right? And it's like I bought
Yeah,
him the Biggie shirt, right? Like I bought it
yeah.
for him because he loves like old school rap. Like my husband
That's the
like
same
loves
thing. I listen to the rap
old.
too.
So
I hate any of the shit that's today.
oh yeah, like it's totally different. Like oh my God, it's awful. But anyway, and I was like, Biggie like trannies, right? And he was like, no. I'm like, yeah, that I was like, what's that one song? I'm like, though the music video, the stripper, stripper is a dude. And then he was like, no. So I get my best friend on the phone and I'm like, Sarita. I'm like,
Forgot what song. I forgot the song. It's in my head. Like I hear it playing right now.
I know, me too, but I can't remember the name of the song. But I'm like, Sarita, I'm like, tell him. And she did. And like, he hasn't worn the Biggie shirt since. Like, I'm like, I feel so bad. Like,
Oh,
I
man.
like ruined my husband's whole life by telling him that. It was awful. I feel bad. I feel bad. So, but it's just like,
That's funny.
it's, you know, for some people, it is a kind of a tough pill to swallow. All of this truth, all of the stuff that kind of sheds, or like has come to light over the course of time. Like, it is a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah,
I
it's
remember
good though,
when,
but it's good that people are actually coming, to the light, right? Like I'd rather them come and ask questions so we can put them on. It's the reason why we, what do you call it, do this show is because,
yeah,
we're trying to bring the truth to people, and, the people who watch the show are patriots and they're truth seekers and truth tellers in their own right. And, we try to just bring it to them. Whoever
yeah,
wants to listen will come in and wake up. Whoever wants to unplug themselves from the matrix will do it. There are some
yeah,
people who aren't. And those are the people that I'm like, listen, I already told you, if you don't want to listen, it's up to you, man. You live your life. You live the way you see fit. If you want to continue, you want to eat that, you want to get plugged back in and eat the steak after you've seen everything, by all means, get plugged back in and stay there.
yeah.
It's just the way it is. So
It
anyway,
is.
wow, see, we're at an hour and 45 minutes. I told you time flies
Wow.
by.
It
Yeah,
does fly by. It
it
does
flies
fly
by.
by.
So I'm gonna get ready to I gotta get up early tomorrow.
Oh, no, do
But
you?
yeah. Can you stick around for a minute?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah, backstage. So anyway, just let everybody know again where they can find you. By the way, I had put links in the description for her Instagram, and then you can find her on IG. She always has some really great reels. So I recommend you guys going and taking a look at her reels. They're actually, her rants are pretty freaking good. So definitely go check her out and make sure you give her a follow on Instagram.
Yeah, I screen people. I screen people better than the government did when everybody was, just pouring into our country. Um, so, and I'm very bad sometimes about accepting follow requests, but like I've been really like on top of it lately.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no,
No, you
definitely. I
gotta you gotta do
follow,
you gotta
follow.
do some you gotta do some screening. You have to, because some people are just out to just be shitheads and stuff like that and mess with you. I don't
Yeah.
even mess with the shitheads anymore. I just don't.
Mm-mm.
I don't argue anymore. It's not worth the argument. Every
It's,
now and then I might catch myself on one, and then I'm like, it's just whatever. It's just let them be. Let them be who they want to be.
yeah.
What are you gonna do? I'm gonna keep grinding and I'm gonna keep on going. No one's gonna stop me. So
Exactly.
you know.
While I point and laugh at you for being a moron. No, I'm just kidding. No, I
Yeah, it's
probably will
true.
point and laugh.
I'll
Like,
just
I'm
sit
not even
back and
gonna
just crack
lie.
up on you and just be a fucking
Yeah.
idiot. You want to be stupid, whatever. Teach his own. Um,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
yeah, so I'm gonna take us out. If you can stick around, we'll
Yeah.
talk a little bit backstage and whatnot, and then you give me some feedback on what you think. All right. Well,
All right.
everybody,
Sounds good.
that is the Patriot. This is the Patriotic Blondie 86. Again, make sure that you check her out on Instagram, and her links are in the description, and you'll be able to find her and whatnot. All right. So I will take us out right now. Well, America, another episode of Break the Machine podcast is done. That was a really great night. It was a great conversation with that Patriotic Blondie 86. Again, her links are in the description so that you can find her. Um, we started off really good with as you see with our conversations on the show, we started off with Michigan and we ended up with the Transformers. It is what it is, and that's how we get down here on this channel. We talk about everything that comes up, when it comes up, how it comes up, doesn't matter. um, I am the Big Red One Guy signing off, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell for notification. Again, um, any donations, buy me a coffee is up at the top of the links up at the top of the chat. Signing off. God bless you all. God bless America. And remember that together and only together can we break the machine. I will see you all on Monday, fam. Have a good night.